Welcome back. I'm joined here with Congressman Troy Carter. Sir, thank you so much for joining us here in studio today.
Thank you. Always great to be with you.
You know, there's been a lot going on at both the state and the federal level, and so I just want to hear from you. First of all, the Ukraine-Russia conflict. You heard from the president of Ukraine this week. So what was that like for you?
It was amazing to hear a president in the midst of such turmoil to be able to articulate the needs of his people and the passion for defending a democracy that we so desperately believe in and support. I thought President Zelensky had a resolve about himself, shared a passion that got a standing ovation from members of Congress, both Republican and Democrat, demonstrating that we fully support protecting democracy abroad, providing resources so the Ukrainian people can defend themselves, strengthening our relationships and our support with our NATO partners to make sure that Putin's war is not funded or aided by any of the NATO partners, as evidenced by the strict sanctions that we put in place, our removal of product, oil, from our purchase list, so we don't supply or purchase anything from Russia, in a spending package of some $16.8 billion that the Congress passed in resources to send to the Ukrainians to help them fight, to protect the democracy. There was a video that was showed during that presentation with the president that was gut-wrenching, to watch schools and residents being bombed. Just absolutely demonstration of a war criminal. And that's exactly what Putin is. And we must, by all of our might, provide resources to help the Ukrainian people defend themselves. And that's what America's doing. And I'm very proud of the president, very proud of the Congress.
Yeah, the government spending bill just came through, and there was a lot of aid for Ukraine there. Do you feel that that does enough? You know, what are the next steps, in your opinion, of what needs to be done to help Ukraine?
Well, I think the next step is to continue to do as we're doing. We're providing Javelin missiles, we're providing Stinger missiles, we're providing surface-to-air resources, and we'll work with our NATO partners to do the same. At the end of the day, we continue to send resources and to get our partners to do the same. The Ukrainian army, although significantly smaller than the Russian army, although not as mighty, have demonstrated a strict veracity that is amazing. They've stepped up with a passion that's not been seen before. And it's truly a David and Goliath situation where they're holding their own. Putin anticipated that he would take Ukraine in 3 days. It's been more than 3 weeks. And they are fighting and holding on. And we will continue to provide resources and continue to stay close to the process of getting resources, not only from America, but also encouraging our NATO partners to do the same. And of course, trying to keep China out of this. It's a whole different situation should China lessen the blow of our crippling sanctions that we've had, cutting off their money, cutting off their resources to the banking system that will give them access to money that they have stored throughout the country. These are issues that Russia cannot sustain if we continue the pressure. The next step is removing them from the most favored nations category or clause. That's huge. And so there are a number of moving parts. This White House, this Congress recognizes that in order for us to continue to enjoy the securities domestically, we have to play on the national playing field, on the international playing field, to protect our partners and allies, and we're doing just that.
And in that national spending bill, there was a lot of dollars coming right back here to the capital region, and that you really advocated for. So can you tell me a little bit about those projects that some of that money is going to be going towards?
Yeah, so we, with 435 members of the House of Representatives, in the omnibus budget bill, we compete for projects and things that are important to our district. So you have to kind of make your case and present why this is more important than the other person who's also competing for those limited dollars. So I'm very proud that we're in the top 20 percentile of members of the House of Representatives in the amount of money we've been able to bring home. In our case, we've got $17.5 million that will go directly to projects within the 2nd Congressional District right here in Baton Rouge, $1 million that will go to the city of Baton Rouge to deal with mental health. And we know how significant mental health issues are, and Mayor Broome has been very grateful and gracious in speaking out and thanking us for that. LSU, health sciences, money to research the effects of COVID. Tulane University, Xavier University, $2.5 million for a STEM program at Xavier University, money for Sewage and Water Board, resiliency and making sure the stormwater and those issues are addressed. Very excited about being able to bring resources, particularly the lower Ninth Ward that everyone's heard so much about during the devastation of Katrina, to build for the first time ever a sports facility, a sports arena for our young people in the public school system, have a place that they can go and call their own to compete athletically, and for the surrounding areas. These things create an economic boost for these communities that have long been devastated and are slow to recover from the various storms.
All right, speaking of disaster recovery, your fellow members of the delegation were frustrated with the omnibus bill because there weren't any extra Hurricane Ida relief dollars involved in this time around. So, what's kind of your response to not getting that money this time, and are you going to continue to advocate to maybe get that in a future funding bill?
We will continue to fight, and I'm confident. The president has said no uncertain terms that he is going to. And recognizes fully the need for complete recovery for Louisiana. The president walked the neighborhoods with me shortly after Ida. The administrator, FEMA, walked the streets with me. We've had no less than 14 cabinet members, including the president, and we'll have the vice president on Monday coming in to talk about broadband. So we've been blessed to have a lot of attention from the White House in Louisiana, and more specifically in LAO2, and we're going to continue to fight to make sure that we get additional money. Now, we've got a big swat of money, but we need more. Admittedly, we can use more. People are still hurting, communities are hurting, trying to rebuild, and we're going to continue to fight to bring as many dollars as we can to help restart businesses, because we know our businesses have been devastated, to rebuild homes, rebuild families. Part of our whole Build Back Better, if you will, the bill that didn't quite get through both chambers, will be brought back in some other smaller portions. But some of the most important parts of that will be starting to fix our supply chain by creating and building things in America and employing Americans. We had the opportunity to meet last week with the chairman CEO of Intel, who will be making a humongous investment in building semiconductors here in America, employing people and providing jobs, more made in America. Very proud to have been a co-sponsor and advocated for the passage of the Competes Act, which is an act that pushes for more American jobs, more American build, dependency on America, resiliency as we go through the oil crunch with the price of oil being as expensive as it is, making sure that we are being resilient, that we're being careful to protect neighborhoods from the issues of environmental injustice while providing jobs and economic development for an industry that's very rich in our area.
And lastly, sir, I want to touch on a bill that you brought here originally in the Louisiana Capitol, but now you've taken it to the federal level, the Crown Act. So you say it just passed the House, right? And now,
yes, it just
tell me about this bill.
Today, I'm very proud that earlier today, we finally passed the Crown Act, which now heads to the Senate, and it's a bill it's very basic in its nature. It suggests that African American women who want to wear their hair the way it grows out of their head, without perms or chemicals or anything that someone else may determine to be appropriate, that they can wear their hair the way it was intended, the way it grows out of their head, if they want to. That they should not be discriminated against in the workplace because they choose to express themselves in a way that's by every step of the very, very definition is natural. As you know, you mentioned when I was my very last act as a member of the Louisiana State Senate before I was elected to Congress, I'd passed the Crown Act out of the Senate, from Senate committee, the Senate floor, and out of House committee. And then, of course, it was time for me to go to Washington, and the bill failed to pass on my exit. But I'm very proud that Ajua Amoja, who is one of the founders and creators of the Crown Act, is a dear friend and worked very closely with us, along with Dove as one of the major sponsors. We're successful in getting it over the goalposts in Washington, and hopefully do the same in the Senate and get it to the president's desk.
All right, we'll be watching as it heads on through the next chamber. Thank you so much, Congressman Troy Carter, for joining us here today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
We'll be right back.